To all the non-believers, 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 non-believers. I'm making out.
What's up, y'all? This is Jay Varsity, and welcome to another episode of NBA Talk. This is episode 95, and I think you already know what we're going to be covering. If you're seeing the pictures right in front of you, we're going to be covering episodes 7 and 8 of The Last Dance. Uh, Guys, this was by far the most two emotional episodes that we've seen in this documentary, and so and I think really what we got to see was we got to see how much not being disrespectful, but we got to see how much of a psycho Michael Jordan was as a teammate per se. Like when we hear from different people like how Mike would be in practice, how he would just be insulting his teammates to try to push them to get better, and everybody has their ways of trying to get the best out of people they work with and everything. But it was just unbelievable how much he would just trash talk his teammates and everything. And like I said, I'm not being disrespectful. Everybody got their ways, but whatever works. If it's not broken, don't fix it. But it's just how far he pushed his teammates that was incredible, that they just couldn't take his trash talking and everything, and that's how much of a competitor he was. And you just when you hear some about some of those things that he would say about how I'm pretty sure you've heard some of the things he said in the documentary, and then you hear about that incident with Steve Kerr and all that. But before we get deeper into all that, we got when you hear the impact of MJ's first retirement and you see how shocking it was, this is how much this is how big Michael Jordan was, that the the moment in he said in confidence at Chicago White Sox game that he was leaving basketball, it leaked to the entire world. Like it was like Michael Jordan couldn't say anything without it being said by everybody else. So the impact of his first retirement, and then having that press conference, and then you're hearing other players' reactions on Twitter about how it was that day when Mike was retiring the first time. Nobody nobody could figure out why Jordan was retiring. But and then the crazy part is, and it's just a coincidence, I'm just saying how unfortunately Jordan lost his father that summer. He he lost his father that off season, this off season where he retired, and well, he got to see Jordan win his third straight championship, and unfortunately, due to circumstances, he unfortunately passed away. And we know that MJ's father was murdered. God rest his soul, because God knows nobody deserves that. But the when you see how much it affected MJ, like any other human being, that if you're that close with your father, it's gonna affect you that way. And it's just how much his father's death impacted his decision and to go pursue playing baseball, because that was the last thing that him and his dad ever talked about, was going to play baseball. And he stayed committed to it. I felt like he honored his father's last wish, was to go play baseball. I felt like those 2 years he was honoring his father's last wish and going to go play baseball. But then he just knew by the end of the day. I think his father would even know. Basketball is in his blood, and he just knew at some point he was going to go back to playing basketball. What was also very powerful was how he was refusing to wear number 23. He was refusing to wear number 23 again. He decided to wear 45 because, again, his father's passing played a decision into him not wearing 23 because he wanted to create a new beginning, and he said number 45 was the first original number that he ever wore. And when you when you see the transition going into the playoffs, when they go after struggling to get back into rhythm, and then he drops the double nickel game against the Knicks, and you see him going to the playoffs to go against Orlando. When he goes from game one to game two, changing from 45 to 23, it was, in a way, it was like everybody said, it was like Superman putting back his cape. It was like Superman putting his cape back on. And it's like you thought Superman got his powers again. I think a lot of people thought that Chicago was back, and Orlando just Orlando just had too many good pieces. The Bulls had lost Horace Grant, and Horace Grant basically almost knew the system, and they kind of saw that Michael was not exactly completely there. He wasn't 100% himself. And then the thing that killed me was how what drove Michael to come back was seeing the criticism that Scottie Pippen took when he refused to go back in the game during the series against the Knicks. And Scottie Pippen had an MVP caliber season that year. He was having an MVP caliber season, and I guess he just found it very disrespectful how he's doing all this, carrying the franchise, and he basically trusted the game winner to Tony Kukoc, and that, in a way, you could understand, but then you could kind of see why Phil Jackson drew up that play for him, but then when you just refuse to not play, that's just a shocker. And I think that's the moment MJ said, "I need to come back." He said, "I need to come back because I can't have guys not want to play because a certain because of certain situations of plays not being drawn for them. They gotta learn that this is a team sport." So after losing in '94 and '95, I still say to this day, I still say to this day that the '95-'96 Chicago Bulls is the greatest team of all time. Like, you can't argue 72-10, and by the end of the regular season, the saying was, "It don't mean a thing without the ring." And they just stomped through everybody in the Eastern Conference. I don't even remember who. To tell you the truth, I don't remember who they played in the first round. And I just watched the documentary last night. I don't remember who they played in the first round. I just know that they stomped the Knicks. They got their very, very do deserve revenge on Orlando, and in a sweep of all. They swept them. That's the craziest thing, that you go from losing in six to Orlando to sweeping them in the conference finals. But the NBA finals, when 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 you see when, the part that I found funny and is also disrespectful was how much Gary Payton was talking about how he was arguing with George Karl about guarding Michael Jordan, and George Karl didn't want Gary Payton to use up all his energy to guard Michael, but he's telling him, "We're down 3-0. I'm not arguing with you anymore." He's like, "There's no argument here. We're down 3-0." when he said that he was tiring out, when he basically was doing was tiring out Mike, and then Mike has the tablet with him, and he's listening to Gary Payton talking about how he tired out Michael in games 4 and 5. How MJ just basically laughed and said that Gary Payton didn't bother him. I just found that disrespectful. I found that disrespectful because that season he said that he won Defensive Player of the Year. How did you laugh at a Defensive Player of the Year saying that he didn't bother you when you didn't shoot well in 2 straight games? Wow, I just found that so disrespectful, man. I just found that so disrespectful. But hey, that's MJ for you. That's MJ for you. He would be the one to laugh in your face, and you're a Defensive Player of the Year. You're a lockdown perimeter defender, and basically one of the greatest players of all time. Basically, is saying in a documentary, "You didn't bother me. I had other things on my mind." Oh man. Oh man. But nah, in the all due seriousness, I really do think other things were on Jordan's mind when it came to Game 6, especially when he's talking about winning the title on Father's Day. And I believe for Jordan's sake, it was obligated that he won the title on Father's Day because obviously he's winning the title in honor of his father. And watching him grab the ball, and I believe Tony Kukoc is the one that's trying to grab the ball in the final seconds, and you see MJ grabbing the ball and he's refusing to let go of it and he's on the ground. That's a very powerful scene right there, and a very powerful moment when you see the human side, the very when you see the human side of Michael Jordan. And that moment, and when you hear and when you hear Michael talking how much how much he was an asshole to his teammates, like it it was just very shocking to me hearing him say all this. I was like, bro, you were admitting that you were a crazy psychopath to your teammates when it came to winning. And then he comes with a quote: "If if you don't like the way I do things, then you don't have to play that way. But you criticize it because you've never won anything." And in a way, he's right. Did I like the way he said that? No, but the message is clear. He was trying to help his teammates not go through the same struggles that he did earlier in his career, which was getting getting almost embarrassed on a on a national scale. So in a way, he did help his teammates gain that mental toughness, and it frustrated him when when coaches softened up and just thought that their players were perfectly fine when damn well come playoff time, when these teams get extra physical, especially in that time period where hand checking was allowed, where it was more of a one-on-one. It was you had to play man-on-man defense. It was you had your mental state had to be had to be very locked in order for you to succeed in that time in the 90s in the NBA. So the moment where he's talking about where him and Steve Kerr had the altercation, where Phil is calling these tic tac fouls for Steve Kerr, and Michael Jordan's getting pissed, and he's basically telling him, this is not going to help when we play teams like New York, when we play teams like Orlando. And it's true because those are two tough physical teams. But then when you hear Steve Kerr say that he punched Mike in the chest, the I don't know why. I could just feel like he could cause he would have been that little kid who tried. You know the cartoons when you see the shortest guy try to punch the biggest guy in the room, and he's giving these punches, and he's trying to give the hardest punch he can, and it just turns out to be the lightest punch you've ever seen. And then when Mike describes how he just wailed Steve Kerr in the eye, to me I could just see the corny little pow sign in the comic books, and I'll just see Steve Kerr with a black eye. I could see Steve Kerr with a black eye. But then yeah, that moment he also, like I said, the human side of Michael Jordan. You could hear the human side of Michael Jordan when he said that he felt like an asshole after doing that. The fact that he said he apologized to Steve Kerr after it happened because he felt so little of himself. He he said he felt so little of himself because he just punched the smallest guy. He just punched the smallest guy on the team. That he just wailed the smallest guy on the team, and he said I just felt beneath myself. That I just felt so small doing that because I shouldn't have resorted to doing that because at the same time that's not how you gain the trust with somebody. But at the end of the day, Steve Kerr himself said he sort of gained a trust with Michael and he felt, and Jordan said also that Steve Kerr got his respect because he didn't back down from him, that he didn't look at him like this god that every other teammate probably did, or other people would probably look at him as. He didn't look at him as this god. He looked at him as just a regular guy. Like, hey, like, dude, you're not just gonna push me around. If we're gonna fight, we're gonna fight. So in that aspect, Jordan did realize, hey, I got a tough ass teammate right here, and if he's willing to go up and stand up for himself against me, then I can't argue with that. I can't argue with that. He just felt like a piece of crap for punching him. But but yeah, back to that 96 championship. It was just I will I will re-utter this again. The 95-96 Bulls is the greatest team I've ever seen. They're the greatest team I've ever seen. Like, I think that was the best. I think that was the best team in the Bulls era. It's 95-96 team. That Michael, Scottie, Dennis Rodman, Steve Kerr, Tony Kukoc. These guys were just on a mission. These these they were on a mission to just get back to the mountaintop, and MJ was just back to being locked in. And then when they go back to 98, and this is how you saw how much the media would exaggerate, right? Sometimes I think the media would forget that these are professional basketball players from all over the world, and they think that sometimes that depending on the competition and depending on the teams that they're playing against, that it should be no problem. So when they're playing that series in '98 in the first round against the Nets, and they see that the Bulls barely won by three points again in game one, and people are getting concerned that the Bulls are not the same and everything. It's like hello. Last time I checked, who got the W and who took the L? That's what matters by the end of the day. Who took the W and who took the L? So I don't give a damn if I win by 1 point. If my team won, we won. So I really don't care with that. But that BJ, the next thing I want to get into after the New Jersey Nets story is the moment with BJ Armstrong, and that was incredible. Hearing BJ Armstrong talk about what it was like to be Mike's teammate and also to be an opponent, because how much Michael needed anything to rile him up was just incredible. Between the moment he said with George Karl blowing him off at dinner, and he just went off on the Seattle Supersonics, and talking about the that moment with Lebradford Smith saying that supposedly he told him good game, Mike, even after he dropped 37 on him and Mike had a bad shooting night, and then he turned around and said that story was never true. He turned around and said that never happened. He just needed something to rile him up, and so he scored 36 in the first half, which was all Lebradford Smith scored in an entire game. That just shows you he just looked for anything to rile himself up. And when he sees BJ Armstrong hit the potential game winner in game 2 of the second round in '98 against the Charlotte Hornets, and you see him celebrating, getting hyped, looking at Mike. For that short moment, he was the baddest man on the planet. Like, oh my God. And then the Bulls they were just determined to get back at the Charlotte Hornets, and then you just see Mike. So you just see Mike determined to take down BJ Armstrong, and I think he scored 2 points in the following game, and they got demolished the rest of the series. But my but my personal favorite is gonna be in the following episodes is how they built up the Eastern Conference Finals going into go for the following 2 episodes when they play the Indiana Pacers, and to me, I want to hear. I'm personally glad that they got Reggie Miller for this segment, and he said it himself. He said it himself. The Bulls were the standard of the NBA, but I still feel to this day we were the better team. And that Pacers team they were deep. But if you go back, you could probably look up on YouTube the '98 Indiana Pacers against the Chicago Bulls in the Eastern Conference Finals. You'll find game highlights, and you'll see how deep that Pacers team was. That Pacers team was probably the best team that Reggie Miller was ever a part of, and they were the closest team to ever knock off the Bulls. That's a due fact. They were the closest team. I think they were the only team to push the Chicago Bulls so close in the Game 7, and you just got to respect the greatness of Michael Jordan and how he was able to get them through that. But then we're gonna see how he did it in the last 2 episodes. But yeah, when you see Michael Jordan basically crying about he almost cried trying to explain like that he was apologizing for how much of for a crazy psycho he was and how determined he was to win, and he held his teammates to a certain standard. It's it's just incredible. It's just incredible when you see that you're seeing multiple sides of Michael Jordan. You're not just seeing the Michael Jordan that the media portrays him to be. You're seeing the human side of him also, and you're seeing how he wants the people he plays with to be held to a certain standard. And you even saw it in Phil Jackson where he says when Michael is there, you feel like you feel like you're there collectively and you feel invincible. You feel invincible. But yeah, I can't wait for the last 2 episodes, especially when they cover the conference finals. And I don't know how much more they're gonna go into when it comes to the past, when they talk about '97, because I believe they covered the '97 championship in the very first episode. But who knows what else could they be talking about? And of course, we gotta hear about that '98 finals and the ultimate question. We have to know the answer to this. Did Michael Jordan really have the flu in that finals? Did he really have the flu in Game 5? We really have to know that. We really have to know, because there are people that still debate to this day that he didn't have the flu, that he had a hangover, that he had food poisoning. Even though the food poisoning one sounds very, very legit, it does sound very legit, because this will impact one of the greatest moments in MJ's career if he says he didn't have the flu. If he says he had food poisoning or a migraine headache or anything like that, it's still incredible how he still busted the Utah Jazz in that condition. Because my dude looked like he was dying on the court. Bro. But yeah, I believe we covered all that we needed to cover with episodes 7 and 8. If I missed anything, please write it down in the comments. Because I'm not perfect. I might not mention certain things. And like, yeah, I tend to forget certain things, and I'll forget to mention them in the video. So please mention them in the comments if I missed anything important that you feel that I should have mentioned. And yeah, I can't wait for these final 2 episodes, man. I'm not gonna lie. I was basically looking forward to every Sunday, knowing that we had The Last Dance there, and especially after spending the day on Mother's Day and all that, watching The Last Dance, you realize there's only one more week left. There's only one more week left that we have to look forward to. The last 2 episodes of The Last Dance, and it's just, whew. It's been a hell of a roller coaster ride in this documentary. It's been one hell of a roller coaster ride. But yeah, I'll see what I can do when it comes to providing more content, because personally, when people talk about who's the greatest of all time and all that other stuff, after watching this documentary, to me, you just gotta respect and you just gotta enjoy watching greatness while it's there, because it's not gonna be there all the time. So, but yeah, that's it. That's all. Like I said twice already. Can't wait for the last 2 episodes of The Last Dance. I think all the major questions are gonna be answered in those final 2 episodes. I think the entire world's going to be watching those last 2 episodes, knowing that this is the definitive part of the documentary, and knowing that we're not going to have any other form of basketball content other than reruns of classic games and all that. This is the best that we got, and I'll see what I can come up with. If not, then my channel's going to probably be on hold for a while, so I can see what I could come up with. Anyway, that's it. That's all. This is your boy J Varsity. Stay safe, guys. Do what you gotta do. Put your mask and gloves on. Wash your hands. Try not to be out if it's not. Try not to be out for non-essential stuff and everything. Anyway, stay safe. I'm out. Peace.
We got some non-believers out there.
Make believers out of non-believers. Make believers out the overseers. Make them bow down.